Hello, everybody. Welcome to Furuya Uncorked. Joining us this week again is Ariana Suchia, the Gram Som.
Hey.
And our special, very special guest, Mr. Rick Lilley, currently from a newly launched or soon to be launched.
I'm so excited.
Brix
Yeah.
and Stone. Yeah.
100% going right now.
Oh, you're going already?
Yeah.
Full on.
Yes.
It's a new concept. And, well, before we start into it, let's just do, we always do a blind tasting to start off with, just to kind of like, so we relax, we get into a groove. And we're not asking Rick or Ariana to guess what wine it is, what grape it is,
We're just
what
having
vintage,
fun.
what
Yeah.
soil. Just them sharing how they break down a wine. So hopefully you can learn something and how you can adjust how you taste. Because, we ask this of everybody. And it's just, sharing and making it less, what is the word? Less
Daunting.
intimidating. Yeah, less intimidating, less daunting. So making it about enjoyment, actually. That's the goal. So let's look at this wine. Ariana, Rick, whoever wants to start, let's jump in.
I'm going to do this like the master quarter sommelier. This is a red
Should
wine.
I get out my notes?
I see gas and flocculation. This is
Don't forget the turbidity.
This is Garnet fading. No, I'm just joking. Okay. So this is a white wine.
White on.
Beautiful. Pear,
White on.
Clean and simple.
I don't see any evidence of gas or flocculation.
Flock?
Is that right? Is that
Yeah.
is that the right word?
I didn't want to say.
It's got this kind of gold tint to it, but it's not like overly concentrated. It's just pretty clean. Little bit of specks of gold on the outer rim. Let's go on the nose.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? That's pretty. It's very, simple. And I mean that in a good way, where for me, it's not like aromatics jumping out of the glass, but that's okay. It's just very clean. It's very pure. What do you think, Rick?
On the site, I think it's very clear. You can see right through it. There's no sort of haziness to the wine. There's no sort of sediment. There's no sort of it looks like the wine has been fined and filtered. It looks like as clean can be.
Mm-hmm.
How about in nose, Rick?
No evidence that it's off or it's corked. There's no sort of cardboard or any of that kind of stuff. So it seems like it's a very sound wine. Are we doing this in the court? Are you going to keep on this?
Just when you pop a bottle.
Okay.
I cheated and I went close to I did the palate already. And I was
did
like,
too.
yeah, it's not overly fruity. That's the most important thing. It's kind of pure. There's a little bit of minerality, but it's a pretty neutral, just true blue expression of whatever, I don't know what the varietal is, but it's nothing, no jammy overripe fruit here, no crazy tropical fruit or aromatics or anything. It's just it's a very true blue wine to me.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that you think is a classic?
I think
Ariana?
that
I want to ask Uncle because I know he knows exactly what it is. Because this is a motherfucking master sommelier.
I know. So for me, just based off of what the wine is, I think that it's a good wine. I think that it's really well made. Classic is hard because I think it's probably from the old world because I'm not getting overly jammy. I'm not getting overly fruity or anything like that. There's this vein of earthiness. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think that it's very much a wine that is going to let you work in different ways with food pairings because it doesn't have a jarring characteral descriptor. It's just very clean. There's a little bit of leesiness. So, wine speak yeastiness. I get a little bit of like a sourdough bread aspect there too. So that works in a wide array of different categories as well. What do you think in terms of descriptors?
It seems to be on the nose. I do get a little bit of stone fruit if we're going to get into that. There's like like white peach apricot kind of thing, but there's also a white flower kind of a gig going on. There's even a little bit of yellow. There's a sunflower, dandelion. What you would picture as being yellow flower, but I do get a lot of minerality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a high quality wine. It doesn't mean that it's super expensive. I just think this is made very well from a good quality producer. It seems as though it's when I tasted it, like you said, I kind of jumped ahead to the next one, and it's not what you would say medium to light kind of in body. Plenty of food range, anywhere from crab to scallops to white fish, maybe even like a chicken with, but I would think that you would want herbs with it, which drives me to the Loire Valley, drives me to Chenin Blanc, drives me to Sancerre, something like that.
No, we're not talking about region of grape, but
Okay.
I love what you said though about the food options too, because it doesn't have a lot of. I don't think there's new oak on this, or there's no oaky smells.
Right.
It's not crazy alcoholic by any means. It's not crazy even acidic. Like it's not searing or like it's not unpleasant. It's just a very food friendly, fun wine.
So I just want to add to this thing before we continue. Rick, more often than not, I just go to stores. And then I try to look for interesting wines that are available on the store shelves. When I see one, I buy it, especially if it's in a good price range. I'm really trying to promote value for the viewers.
Absolutely.
And so, again, I'm not looking to trick anybody or anything. I just think this is a really good wine. I think it's stony, like he said. It has a base note minerality as opposed to limestone minerality.
Yeah.
So it's got boom, boom. It's got a stoniness, like wet river stones or something.
The base, yeah.
That I really like. I think it's got wonderful intensity and concentration. I think it flows very evenly and seamlessly from beginning. And I think it's medium bodied, like he said. I think it's dry. I think it's got a lemony edge to it. So he said scallops, and all these fish and
The
things.
squeeze of lemon to your seafood. Yeah.
And so if you looked at the last calibration episode that Ariana did, the acid is on the side. So I can feel the presence of the acidity. It's got that pins being poked in the sides of my tongue. Sweetness, there's no sweetness here. What else did we talk about?
No alcohol.
Bitterness.
They're not
Bitterness,
crazy alcohol.
I don't
yeah.
get a lot of bitterness here. I don't get a lot of alcohol here. Again, like what Rick said, I think it's medium bodied, so that's using the calibration that Ariana showed us, and that's how I would break down this wine. The question I have for you guys, how much would you pay for this wine in a store?
Wow. At Brix and Stones? At my place? Got a good margin working with. I say you pay probably just under $30.
Okay, how about for you, Ariana?
Yeah, I think 25. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was $23.95, and I saw it. I can't remember if it was Fujioka's or if it was Arfield Aina. But I think both stores carried it. That's why I bought it.
Before you tell me what it is, can I offer that I think there's a little bit of salinity.
Okay.
There
Yeah.
seems to be this like a touch, as if you were to make a cocktail and put just a drop of saline, a salty, if you
in
were,
the back especially too.
just
Yeah.
a touch, which makes me a little bit of ocean spray kind of a thing that I think this is a great wine for Hawaii.
Great. I agree. I think this thing way over delivers for the dollar.
Whose is it? What is this?
Yeah. Drum roll,
Where I
please.
put the bottle. Maybe it's inside the ice cooler.
Before you say what do you think it is?
Oh no! Let's not guess.
We
there
can't
because,
guess?
no,
Can we
no.
guess? Come on, I
No,
wanna
no,
guess.
No, because this wine is abstract.
Oh, yep. That's the one, I think, right? Because it's the only open one.
So this is Cantina Terlan.
Oh, okay.
And this
okay.
is the Pinot Bianco. This is the grape. This comes from northeast Italy, up among the Dolomites, the Dolomites. Austria is on one side, Switzerland is on the other side. And if you look on the label, you can see the mountain. It's on the side of this mountain. So it's all glacial deposit kind of soils. So porphyry rock, quartz, things like that. Not limestone, not river stones, not slate. It's just glacial deposits. It's
And
it's
Chuck,
all
this
kinds
is a
of-
pretty iconic producer for the area, right?
Absolutely.
What is like your first experience? Do you remember with Terlan?
when we opened Vino. I went to a restaurant called Aquarello in San Francisco.
Yeah. Our
And,
good friend Rafa, shout
yeah,
out, works
absolutely.
at Aquarello.
So the owner is a guy named Giancarlo
Yeah.
Pertanini, and he is one of the most iconic sommelier wine minds
Mm-hmm.
of our era. He is something else, and specifically with Italian wines, but he's well versed in everything. This guy is like a master. He's like a Yoda. And I was asking him questions about, he and I were involved with the wine judging back in the late 70s, early 80s, that was put on by the Italian Trade Commission. There was 14 or 16 judges, and half were from the United States, half were from Italy. And we were broken up into groups, blind tasting, and that's how I met Giancarlo. He was managing Donatello Restaurant at the time, and Donatello Restaurant, which was the Italian restaurant in San Francisco at that time. And
Awesome.
I was there looking for specifically a wine called Ischia, which is from the island of Ischia. It's right by Capri, off the Amalfi Coast. Mm-hmm. And I was looking for that wine. It's made from Biancalella and Forastera. And I was looking for a really good dry Italian rosé. So he showed me that. And he could see I was totally into it.
Yeah.
So then he brought out this. And it was he brought out a 1991 Chardonnay from Cantina Terlan. I was so blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, because please understand, this would have been in 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. So that wine was 10 years old, over 10 years old, and I was blown away by the wine. So then I started research. I like the Cantina Terlan wines. This is my typical favorite from the winery. It's a co-op, by the way. It's not a single winery. It's a co-op of all these different growers, because this wine greatly over-delivers for the dollar. And nowadays, I think value is a really important thing.
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
think this wine is stellar. I think this is like a standout. And then when you consider the price, it's, oh my goodness. And I think Chardonnay people could like this wine.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think Sauvignon Blanc people could like this wine. You know, I think I think seafood, I think this wine is totally where it's at. And it's less than $25 a bottle
That's awesome.
in a store. I think that's a steal. So, and again, Rick, I just go to stores. I'm not trying to promote any specific store. I just go to stores and
Except for Brix and Stones,
Yeah.
999 Waimanu Street.
So that's a segue. So when Rick and I have a relationship that goes quite far back, and the last time pre-pandemic, catching up with Rick, he was the wine buyer for 12th Avenue Grill over there in Kaimaki, and he was long time there, and he did all kinds of
Great wine program.
very adventuresome wines, very interesting wine and food pairings and menus, etc. It was very innovative. It was for Hawaii. I mean, that was one of the spots. We're doing really interesting wines and really interesting
And great wine
pairings.
dinners featuring
Yeah.
really cool winemakers and things too.
He really changed the game on that front. You know, he made things cool and then and accessible. And then he did some private labels as well with some of the most gifted winemakers that we
I
commonly
remember
know.
you did Tyler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Tyler. So Tyler Chardonnay is like one of my favorites out of California.
You did a Pinot, right?
A Pinot and a Chardonnay, yeah.
And then he did a special cuvee with Nyers too, didn't you?
Special enough for us, we had our own private label on. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do any blending or anything, which, I mean that's kind of the game, though. If you're going to do a private label, you're going to put your brand name on the label and you're going to, do it from there. So that's
It's also about championing that, right? And,
absolutely
like collabing.
Thank you, because that's what it was about more than anything. Finding a wine that was accessible, you could do it by the glass, that over-delivered, as you would say, for the price, and it was a red blend that went with our food.
Yeah.
And I think in this time in the pandemic, especially when you have restaurants closing, those things are going to go away because you're not championing a wine for the food. Most people can't even come for the food. So now you're championing wine for somebody at home.
Yeah.
What do you drink at home? How much can you afford at home?
How can I
What are
apply
you
this
gonna do?
knowledge to this?
Yeah.
So after the whole pandemic thing and whatnot, Rick ventured off and started a new project called Brix and Stone.
Bricks and Stones, plural.
Oh, both of them, Brix.
Brix,
and
Brix,
Brix.
as in sugar ripeness in grapes or in whatever else you're trying
I
to
just
do.
got that. I like that. Oh,
And
okay.
Stones as in whiskey stones.
So who thought of the name?
That was me.
Nice.
So
I
about
like it.
10
I like
years
it.
ago, maybe you'll edit this, maybe you won't, but Wes Zane was getting rid of Formaggio down there in Market City, which is still there right now. And I looked into it at the time, and I really wanted to have a place called Brix and Stones. I really gravitated toward Brix, the sugar ripeness, and I always thought that stones in whiskey or whatever back in the day before you had refrigeration was cool because they would put stones that were cold inside of their whiskey, not
Yeah.
to dilute, but to cool down the product. And I thought that was cool.
Just pure
was it.
temperature control
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That's the
super
spirit.
cool.
So
There it is.
So
First Chuck joke of the
I
night.
forgot to also mention that Rick is has been heavily into mixology and beers as well. So he's the full gambit. It's not just wine.
100% alcoholic.
There you go. And so that's the realization here, right? Brix and Stones
Yeah.
is about what?
More than anything, bringing everybody together under the same roof. But when it really comes down to it is fermentation happens because of sugar. and you know, you could say stones as chijones if you want to get into Mexican, whatever. But like, there's a masculinity that comes with that, and I'm just trying to bring everybody together under the same roof. I think that there's a place for everything.
So people have a little bit of context. You guys are doing wine, full-on tequila, all this type of beverage consulting, but you also have a cigar portion run by Elena's
my
working.
wife does
Yes!
the cigars. Yeah.
Awesome.
She's quite she's very knowledgeable about cigars, man. It's pretty impressive.
So people can have a full experience at Brix and Stones.
We don't just stop there. I mean, even we have imported olive oil, risotto, porcini mushrooms, sauces from.
My husband can't watch
Sicily,
this episode, or else I'm gonna go broke. Like,
but so our thing is exactly that, not to go broke, especially in these times where you can't visit a restaurant, where you can mix up something. We made risotto in 30 minutes the other day for lunch. Every day for lunch, our little hui, our little gathering of people is around 6 to 7 people. We work together every day. We're very socially responsible. And
but you have this family. Yeah, family dinner.
We have our web designer, we have the owner, we have my wife, we have the person who does all of the paperwork, we have the person who's my helper. We have it's a little family that we get together, and I make lunch for them every day. So the idea was, in the beginning, how do we make this happen quicker? How can we make this happen so that we could even promote this at home? Yeah. And if you can make a delicious risotto, a delicious pasta in less than 30 minutes, you don't have to make the marinara. You don't have to make the risotto. If you get the right product, you could do it quickly. It might cost you a couple bucks more than it would if you just bought the arborio rice without the porcini mushrooms. But when you get everything together, $2 for 8 people, that's not that bad. That's 25 cents per person more.
Even for 4 people, and you get leftovers, right?
Absolutely. So we're doing the whole thing, and we're putting together prizes, boxes. I shouldn't say prizes. We're putting together boxes that kind of cater to what you want to do at home.
Oh, okay. So it's a little bit more interactive almost too, right? Because you can make something at home.
In addition to that, Ariana, he's actually building out the spot himself.
Yeah.
So he's there with the hammer and the
He's hammering bricks literally too, right?
I mean, it's a really cool spot.
That's awesome.
We have a nail gun. I don't use a hammer too much these days. But you're right.
He nailed it.
You nailed it.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so Rick, so you're kind of like realizing a dream now, yes?
Absolutely.
And you're trying to make fine wine accessible.
Yeah.
To the average person. So what started this? I mean, why go down this road?
Farming.
What does that mean?
Farming. It all comes from the soil. That's why, like, for me, it all happens there. I mean, I think this is why I gravitated towards you more than anything when I first met you, when you first started talking, was you put me in the place. You talked about an amphora of like, this is what the hillsides around me are like and
this
stuff.
This is where
and
the sun is shining.
Like I'm on a south-facing. When you get into the sommelier thing, you can go down the rabbit hole in different ways. There's the green pill and there's the red pill or the blue, whatever it is. There's the pill you take. And where you decide to go from that is where you decide to go. I chose to go the route of, I actually understood what you meant about exposure of sunlight and soils and things, not because of grapes, but because of I raised animals as a kid, that we grew our own tomatoes and lettuce and cabbage and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I translated it into a different form that you showed me.
Ariana, so that's another bit that I should mention to the viewer. He actually grew up there in Amador.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and you know that whole Sierra foothills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where he grew up.
Yeah, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
At the time when I was growing up, I was not proud.
But
now,
looking back, it's
I could
priceless.
have never imagined anything better in life.
So you want to be talking about, if you want to talk about being in touch with the ground, on up, whether it's your food or whether it's grapes. That's how he was brought up. So this journey totally makes sense.
I love that because every time we talk about a winemaker of note, for some reason or another, it comes back to that winemaker is in tune with the farming, walking the vineyard, not just making the stuff, which is important, but the sense of place of it all. So it's kind of cool to see that's also true for Psalms, you know, being in tune with where it comes from, farming. And you played that with not just wine, but tequila and like spirits, right?
Everything. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if there's chemicals on the property, then there's chemicals in whatever you're doing, and whatever you're doing, then it's a position of poison. You know, how much poison can we as a human being take, and where do you stop or where do you begin? If you were to take a teaspoon of rat poison or Drano or whatever,
or sulfur,
or copper sulfate, lime. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on. But let's just say, because everybody's probably used it before, Drano. If you took 1 teaspoon of Drano and you consumed it, you would probably at least be
illegal
sick or
to feed to
die.
your family. Yeah.
But if you took maybe,
I'd feel drained.
If you took a drop and you consumed it, you would probably be okay. So why would you do that? And why would you seek out something that's, you know, non-GMO, non-whatever, whether it's organic, biodynamic, sustainable, whatever it is? Why would you stop at your food? Why wouldn't you continue it into what you're drinking? Whether it's wine or whether it's tequila or whether it's beer or whatever. I mean,
that's kind of your concept on natural and natural wine too. It's kind of all encompassing, holistic.
Absolutely. When you can. For instance, on my way over here tonight, I was hungry. I stopped at Jack in the Box. I'm not proud about it. But I did
you're
it.
honest.
I had to have something to eat, and it happens. So that was my teaspoon of poison that I'm going to have, and I'm not going to eat it for another 3 years. No offense to Jack in the Box. But if you get, you know, you go deeper and you think about, do you, when you go to the store to buy eggs, do you buy Calais eggs? Do you buy Shakamoa eggs? Do you buy 365-degree organic, whatever it is from Whole Foods? Where do you stop? Do you not seek out something that's good for you?
Yeah.
You know, I don't take Advil. I don't take aspirin. I don't do anything like that. I don't take Oxycontin unless I'm in the hospital. Why would I do that? That's just not something
it's not your way of life.
I appreciate the farming. I appreciate the viticulture. I appreciate the vinification of the juice. And I appreciate it the next day when I wake up and I feel a little more alive than I would have if I would have had a conventionally farmed.
So with that being said, what like wines and or winemakers are like ring true to you when you're thinking about that concept?
There's so many I couldn't even start. I would actually start by what importers or what distribution companies do certain things, and that's where I would start. I mean, you know, we'll start with Kermit Lynch because of course I have a huge affinity for Kermit Lynch. When Louis Dresner, Jenny and Francois, Rosenthal has great wines. I just don't feel that every wine, every producer, every tequila, every whiskey, every vodka, everything has a place at somebody's table. Whether you choose to have it at your table is up to you. I'm not trying to say you don't do that. I'm just saying, if you ask me my personal opinion, unfortunately, I'm going to tell you. But if I'm in a meeting with somebody who says, I only drink, you know, Napa Valley Cabernet from high altitude from Howell Mountain or something, well, then you should seek out places like, you know, a certain winemaker, a certain whatever. But if you want to get down with like, if I want to have shabu shabu, say here's an easy one. If I want to have shabu shabu, I'm searching for maybe some Grelot from Catherine and Pierre Breton.
Oh, nice.
Maybe I'm having some Reni from Guy Breton. Maybe it's you know, it's going to be a Champolit, this one, which we haven't even talked about, which we'll talk about later. But
I'm actually going to finish my wine so I can have some of that.
Awesome with that kind of stuff. So everything has a place at the table. I mean, you can't have a ribeye steak every night. You can't have shabu shabu every night. You can't have crab every night.
So I conveniently finished my glass. Rick actually conveniently and lovely brought this wine. Can you actually explain to me a little bit about why you brought this, what it is, for our viewers' knowledge?
The main reason is because it's cool, man. It's a 1 liter bottle in an old green sort of.
I don't know if they can see it, but it even has a cool shape to it, you know?
Yeah, it's a 1 liter bottle. They don't do this kind of stuff anymore. This is a French wine. It comes from, it's a Vin de France. It doesn't sort of offer any sort of. It doesn't represent an appellation of control or whatever you want to call it like that. This is a Chris Santini's wine. I think Chris actually, I'm not 100% sure. I want to say that, I know he's French. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to poo-poo it anyway. But this is...
Are you sure he's French?
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, I want to say he's actually from Corsica. But I might be wrong.
Yeah,
I
don't
know
get
he's
that
French.
feeling. I know he knows Corsica, but because I talked to him when I was going to go to Corsica, I don't think he's from Corsica.
He's French.
Are you really? I didn't know that.
Chris, you better be French, bro. But this
Santini,
is interesting because this is
It's so light in color. Like it's
like
pretty.
it's like 3/4. Oh shit, I still have this. It's like 3/4 Pinot Noir.
Come on, I thought you're used to drinking tequila and whiskey. Hurry it
1/4
up. No, I'm just
Chardonnay.
joking.
Where's my salt and lime?
I'm sorry, I cut you off. What were the varietals again?
So it's 3/4.
Pinot.
I think it's 3/4. It's like 75 Pinot Noir and 30 Chardonnay or 25 Chardonnay or whatever. It's somewhere there. I don't really care. But what's cool about it is that the grapes are actually co-blend. They're all intermittent in the same vineyard.
Oh, that's
and he
super cool.
vinifies them together. And there's no sulfur. This is about as natural of a wine. It contains sulfites as all wine does because sulfur is it's a natural thing that just happens in the world. But they don't do anything to it. It's like as close to a natural wine as you can get. And I use the word crushable. It's
so unique too, though. Like it's light. It's funky fresh. I like saying funky fresh with this one.
Shabu shabu wine.
Shabu shabu wine. Like a little bit of like cow tongue, gyutang. So with that being said,
Yeah. How much is this at Brix and Stones?
Oh, I'd have to get my calculator up, but hold on, let me think about this.
Roughly.
So now, once again, this is a
Roughly.
1 liter bottle, so
Yeah.
that's going to be a little bit different. But I'm saying we're
bigger than
probably
your
around,
standard size bottle.
Oh, it's got to be just under $40 a bottle. Now, having said that, that sounds expensive, right?
But when it's 1 liter too, though.
So 1 liter for one, and then you get into the whole allocation thing. And what we do down at Bricks and Stones is we're not, for instance, there's a lot of wine that you only have maybe 1, 2, 12 bottles of whatever, and a lot of people will like charge you accordingly to what's the allocation kind of a thing. We're not doing that. We're operating on a margin that's straight across the board. So if rather than reward the person who's buying an expensive bottle of wine or reward the person who's buying an inexpensive bottle of wine, it's the same all the way around, and it is what it is, and that's the end of the story. Period. So
that's a good concept. Yeah.
I got my calculator
No, it's
taken away
okay.
from me.
Close enough. So this wine is light. It's delicious. It's delicate. It's nuanced.
This is a food or even on its own because it has such a unique, distinct flavor to it. I like it.
If you found me at Saturday afternoon at the beach under an umbrella with a book, this is the wine I want to have.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? Like, serve it chilled, enjoy it. There's no reason.
I love the chill aspect.
As long as you have oxygen, I think you're okay. You know?
That's awesome. I want to share one of my favorite Rick Lilley stories / memories.
Oh, God.
No, because because you're talking about like wine and how like almost easygoing but pleasurable the wine, but also learning about wine should be. Back in the day when I was first doing my certified sommelier exam, I'm a naturally very anxious person. I don't know if y'all can tell. I get like very in my head. I'm like so nervous for tests. And I was literally going into my SOM exam, pacing back and forth, trying to remember the 13 plus grapes of Chateauneuf Pop, blah, blah, blah. And I think it was Micah Suderman who actually texted you because you were the maitre d' of the exam that year. I think it was 2016.
Yeah.
And I remember you just came outside to where all the nervous contestants, me especially nervous, were sitting. And you're like, where's the girl that's really, really nervous? And everyone just pointed at me because they didn't even know me, but they're like, that girl over there is like on something else. Like she's doing something. You're just like, hey, just do what you do. And you calmed me down. I went into my service exam. I passed, thank the Lord. Oh my goodness. But I really almost liked that same when you're talking about wine. Just do what you do. Drink what you drink, like what you like. So I feel like that's like a really iconic Rick Lilley moment for me.
Well, I'm glad there's one.
No, because it was just so refreshing. You know what I mean?
When you get down to it, man, it's fucking wine.
Yeah.
It's wine.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not trading bouillon. We're not changing the environment. Whatever. I mean, hopefully we do, because hopefully somebody understands that even in the pandemic with people not traveling and stuff, that the climate is actually getting. But whatever you want to do, it's just wine at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So let me interrupt on that thing. So lately, Cheryl and I have been making all kinds of stocks, vegetable stock, beef stock, chicken stock, in hopes of being a bouillionaire. Bouillionaire.
And cue, what is that? Chuck joke number 3.
What do you think? I think that's super.
4.
Oh, wow. With the follow-up
Yeah,
even.
that's
An
it,
amendment
man.
to the bouillionaires.
So he actually didn't hear anything that me and Rick said. He was just waiting to tell that joke. There we go. Oh,
Okay, so aha moment for you. She said an aha moment, a Rick Lilley aha moment. Aha moment for you. And when you were getting into wines, what was something that really, that-
Shopping at Tamura's. I'm going to, little shout out to Tamura's, but not really a shout out. When I had learned by what's the book?
Wine Atlas? Or?
No, Wine for Dummies.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Recommended by Kevin Toyama. Shout out to Kevin Toyama. But recommended by Kevin Toyama to a person who's the one who got me into this whole game. And she took it in a bad way. I took it in a good way, and I gravitated toward it. And this is actually where we had our first tasting at DK Steakhouse.
Oh, wow.
Because the first chapter in Wine for Dummies, after you get through, like, what is it, but is Bordeaux. And Bordeaux is Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't understand, but I thought I'm going to go to Tamura's. I'm going to buy a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon. I'm going to buy a bottle of Merlot. I'm going to buy a bottle of Cabernet Franc. And I'm going to buy a Malbec. And I'm going to make my own concoction. Why is it that the left bank is all Cabernet Sauvignon, the right bank is Merlot? Not understanding at the time.
Yeah.
Soil is a big deal. So I took my California Cabernet and Merlot and
make
everything,
your
and I'm a bartender. I took my beaker and I took my jigger and I made more parts Cabernet Sauvignon. I was like, that's pretty good, and I put a little more. Oh, that's pretty good. And then I'm like, well, what? And by now this time, I have a lot more Malbec left over. So let's put more Malbec in. No wonder they do it like this, because it's horrible. So that was my thing. And then the next day I went back to Tamura's. Outside of I'm trying to study for this big thing called the sommelier exam and stuff. I just want to enjoy something. I've got $20. Where do I spend? And I got down on my hands and knees. This is why I talk about Tamura's. Because at Tamura's, the lower level wines are at the bottom.
Like the reach down.
Yeah. When you get to where you're standing, more at a table, now you're into $20 range, and as you get up to the top, it gets more expensive, and then you go into the other room where the really good stuff is, right?
Oh, the glass.
Well, I'm on the bottom.
That's an ugly rumor.
And oh man, God, you went there.
Number 5.
My problem was when I'm on my hands and knees and I look up and there's a really pretty lady there shopping on the higher level. I
Don't
thought,
make
wow,
this a dirty joke.
Not at all. I wouldn't do that. I don't get on my hands and knees for everybody, but when I do, it's for price. And I grabbed a bottle of, at the time it was called Chateau Saint Martin Garrigue Bronzenel, which Kermit doesn't bring in anymore.
De la Garrigue.
De la Garrigue.
It was called Saint Martin de la Garrigue.
And they stopped doing it
Bronzenel.
around 10, 12, because I don't see it anymore.
The winemaker left, as you know.
And it goes to Dalpuyac or?
No.
Anyways.
The other label, I can't remember now.
This is my aha moment, by the way. And I opened this $12 bottle of wine, and I smelled it. I was like, what is that? That smells like my baseball mitt when I played center field when I was 11. And there was
nostalgia.
like potpourri, and there was all this awesome things happening. And I thought, I didn't even know that was possible. So it's funny you asked the aha moment, because I always use this one, and most of the people are like, it's the first time I tasted Chateau Palmer, or it was the Domaine
must be nice,
Romane Conti or whatever, and I'm like, mine was fucking $12.67, and it was awesome. And that really thought to me, what is that? What is going on in here? And
what happened in the universe to make that in that glass?
And I don't find out the answer for another 8 years until I actually go there to that area, and driving a car on a road that's only about 6 feet wide, making a wrong turn, and you have to revert. You have to make a 36-point turn.
The Austin
to
Powers
get back.
turn.
And you hit rosemary and fennel and white asparagus and sage, and like you're back, and all these expressions of aromas are coming
And you're
out
like, there it
of around
is.
you. And I was like, oh my God, that's what it was. It wasn't even really the grapes. It was somebody who lived in a region that had all of these different
nuances around it, like farming,
yeasts or sulfur, whatever it was that was on there was happening. And that's it, man. That's it. And I've never looked back, and I don't care anymore.
Does that tie into like your aha moment favorite wine trip too? Like you've traveled there, right? That must have been a cool experience.
Yeah, I mean, along that experience, there's probably 1,000 other ones, but going to the place where I first smelled it was fantastic. But also that happens, you know, so many different little pin drops on your Apple, iPhone, whatever, along the way, that it happens so many. My moment, my first moment.
There's and there's
was my first moment happened at 555 12th Avenue in Kaimuki, 96816, upstairs where I live by myself, and I went, wow.
That's cool.
That's my moment.
I love that. That's super cool.
So yeah.
So yeah, you know.
So the winery that he went to was called Chateau du Roc, Deux, and the next word is ROC.
Du Roc.
Yeah,
Deux.
Yeah, du.
Du.
ROCK.
Du Roc.
ROCS.
Yeah, du Roc. Yeah. So that's at a higher altitude.
Is that Sylvain Fadat?
I'm sorry?
Is that Sylvain Fadat? Is that the winemaker?
Dopiac.
That's Dopiac. Okay.
Yeah. So he left, and I can't remember his name. I've been trying to remember his name, but I can't remember. But he left Saint Martin de la Garrigue, and he went to Chateau de du Roc.
Oh.
And his most popular cuvée that kind of replaced Bronzanel-ish is called Premise.
Yes.
There you go.
See, that's why we have.
And that's why we have Chuck Furuya on stuff, guys.
That's why we just keep the encyclopedia around.
And you know what? To be candid with you, the soils at Du Roc is way more interesting. It's higher altitude, and it's like all these different vineyards. It's not necessarily all contiguous, so it's more interesting wines, in my opinion, and better priced.
You know, it's funny you said the word contiguous. So we have one of our members as a woman who's from Google. And I didn't know this. She's a member, whatever. She comes to for tasting, we talk. And she is the creator of Gmail and Google Maps.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. Kind of a big deal.
Casual.
We kind of use that every once in a while. But I was showing her we were looking at Champagne. And if you look at Champagne, the word contiguous came up because it's not contiguous. You have a spot here, a little bit over here, over here. And I had to explain to her that she says, what wine map do you use? And I said, it's called Wine Maps. It was a cheap free app, you know, and I showed her.
Yeah.
It's very two-dimensional. And she said, if I were to do that, I would have put it more three-dimensional so you could see. And it was very interesting to me because especially if you think about, you know, Napa Valley and the valley floor and then where you get up to certain
seeing
area,
the altitudes.
Altitudes are where you get into where the actual the department might be or the AVA or whatever you want to call it.
Making this a knoll.
And that was the first time, honestly, that I've ever heard the word contiguous not being tested on it when I was like in 8th grade or whatever.
Well, you know, it's really interesting you would mention this Google Maps because Roberto Viernes, who's a master sommelier, local boy, you know, that did really good. He did a presentation for all of us one time using Google Maps, and he specifically chose Burgundy, and he chose the Santa Rita Hills. And so it was the wildest thing for me back then. It was just like the satellite zeroing in California, then Central Coast, then Santa Barbara, then Santa Rita, and then he would go like this, like this, like this, like this. So you could see all the different aspects and angles. And Amanda did that with Ancient Peaks at Paso Robles one time. I was blown away because then now instead of just looking at a picture of a map, you could see it in 3D.
Yeah.
You know, it was wild, man. I thought, and that was 10 years ago that Roberto showed me that.
Yeah, because when you studied, it was like stone tablet kind, right? Like you had to like, yeah.
Oh man, you know they have schools to develop a sense of humor for you.
I'm asking her a genuine question, right? Like no.
She went to UCF, University Chuck Furuya.
University of Chuck Furuya. No, she didn't. There's no humbleness there. That's ferocious over there, bro.
Hey, so we were talking a lot about France, and you've obviously been to France. You know a lot about France. What about like standout experiences with California wine or California wine trips for you?
Wow. There's
Because
more.
we spoke about Tyler
There's
a little
more
bit.
of California than there is of France. More stories for sure. Yeah.
Any favorites? Because we talked about Tyler, a little bit about Nyers too, right?
Yeah. Nyers, I didn't get to visit any of the vineyards of Nyers vineyards except for in Antioch, where the Evangelo vineyard is actually from.
Nice, yeah.
Which is funny because, like, sorry, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but it's very interesting because it's not a farm community. You kind of like you go through Antioch, you go through kind of the ghetto, and you end up at this place.
And there we are.
And there's the oldest vines in California.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that in Europe too, Can be.
In Europe, for me, I think that I like it better just because there's more history, and it's hard to. I don't want to put anybody ahead or behind of any other maker or place or whatever, but obviously we have more history in the old world.
Yeah,
obviously
it's called old for a reason. Yeah.
And I think
stone tablets and everything.
And maybe it's also because it makes me feel better about myself that I understand when it says like AOC, Appellación Original Contrôlée.
I know, but did you study, as she noted, with stone tablets?
No.
Okay.
I did not.
I'm just saying.
We'll hear
I did
about
go to
it
Stone
later,
Street.
Chuck.
But yeah, I mean, in the end, you mentioned earlier, like I have a history in the mixology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I don't want to like segue it away from what you're asking me, but what I've noticed more about wine as opposed to say liquor is that wherever you go, if you're in France or if you're in California, the winemakers most of the time are talking about them not just themselves, but their family or their domain or the history of the place,
the tradition,
whatever.
Yeah.
We farm on a south-facing slope, and we only farm this, and we trellis like this, and we do our canopies like
pruning,
this, and
yeah.
we harvested this many bricks, and so on and so forth. But when you talk about liquor, the person who's making the Blantons or the Maker's Mark or Knob Creek or whatever it might be, they're never talking about themselves. They're always finding about the person more. They want to know about the person who's drinking it. And I think that's just a very interesting tactic, if you will, of how to sell your stuff. And I don't think that the winemakers get into that as much until you really get into the old world where like 2000, was it 15, maybe it's 15 and 16, but there was a ton of frost that year, especially in the Loire Valley. There was a lot of hail and stuff like that. And I think that people don't understand a lot that the weather makes a big difference, not just about the temperature, but about what comes from the air, whether it was rain or hail, frost, whatever it might be. But in the old world, especially like we'll talk about the Loire Valley because that's where I'm at, but in the Loire Valley at that time, they lost like, 3/4, at least a half of their whole overall crop, but nobody cried about it. Nobody made a big deal. Nobody asked for help about anything. And I know that the government gives a little bit of tax or whatever, they help out a little bit, but when I talked to the winemakers at that time, they said, it's France, it's just what happens.
Yeah.
Where in California, if that happens, like in 2000, was it 13, 14, whatever, there was an earthquake. I remember Silver Oak lost a bunch of stuff.
Well, let's just talk about the fires recently.
And the fires and things like that.
Devastation.
Devastating. Nobody who was affected by that in California said, we're Californian, this is what happens. No, like you probably had to sell your Ferrari. You had to, there was a mortgage that had to be paid for. And I think that's just the difference from the old world to the new world, why I gravitate towards the old world. I think the tradition is wonderful. Having said that, we don't have enough time on the planet in the new world to have tradition like the old world. So while I might like one thing more than the other, there's no correlation. There's no putting one above the other because you haven't had the chance yet.
I see. Yeah.
So
it's
you
just
can't
simply
say
time. Yeah.
But I know that we've talked many times about Santa Barbara and for when you have kind of more of a maritime climate, you have the marine layer that comes through and the east-west exposure, which is like nowhere else in America, that you actually have it coming from the west to the east and the funnel and stuff like that. That's the Loire Valley brought to California. Shit, man, we can go on and on about this.
Yeah, but by the way, there is some out in Livermore, some of that east-west configuration.
Really?
Yeah.
They're coming from the Bay Area.
Livermore coming in from the ocean.
Yeah, that's where
Wente.
Wente.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was corrected when I said Santa Barbara one time. That's why I know. I was corrected by someone from Wente, I believe. So
Yeah.
there is some east-west configuration out in Livermore is the point. But, I think the point, though, that's challenging now is that what you're seeing is just these conglomerations being getting bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. So whether it's old world or it's new world,
You got to seek out the quality.
But they're getting bought up.
And I mean, I just learned this today, actually. And you probably know this, of course. I don't know if you do, Ariane, or not, but in France, when it comes to wineries and taxes, every other generation pays the taxes.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. I just learned that today.
No,
and I know that
they had a
there's
Guildsom article, I think, on it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know, and I don't read enough anymore. But
I
thought
it's a trip,
that was
right? Yeah.
Well, I thought it was fascinating, not because that it happens, but because some of those wineries are going to be gone now. They'll they'll become Constellation brands. They'll become whoever else is going to buy them up because the children can't afford to take over the taxes that their parents didn't take out the insurance for, not thinking that it was a big deal 30 years ago. And that's
why
too bad.
would they? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's too bad.
Well, the other bigger point, too, that happens in Europe is that when I pass away, my land gets equally split among my children. So after 3 generations, imagine how fragmented everything is, all your holdings, and so.
But lucky for you, you just had one son, so he gets all the Aloha shirts.
I have a daughter.
No, one son for the Aloha shirts.
I actually have now 2.
Oh, so they'll split the Aloha shirts.
No, one doesn't wear Aloha shirts. So the other one he says he's native, so he wears more, local kind shorts. And
so no one's going to get
anyway,
these?
So back to this.
I'll take a little bit. Thank you.
This is not a backhand pour in the bad way. This is called, I've had surgeries where I have to learn how to pour at every angle.
Every angle, for everyone. Yeah.
May you rest in peace. You like that one?
This is a great sipper, though. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
So is this the types of wines, like just really down-to-earth styles that we can find at Brix and Stones?
You can find whatever you want at Brix and Stones. I mean, if you came in and said, "Hey, Rick, can I? Shall I?"
No, I'm fine.
If you came in and said, "Hey, Rick, can you show me something?" I'll show you something. But if you came in and said, "Hey, Rick, I'm looking for Turnbull Cabernet," I'd say, "Cool, Turnbull Cabernet it is." My something that I didn't know was going to happen, which was what's happening now, which is I have a lot of different people coming in asking for different things, and I mean different people, different things, and it's wonderful. When you work at a restaurant like 12th Avenue Grill, where we do a certain type of cuisine, we might have got I think what the word we got was American gourmet comfort food.
Yeah.
That was cool, but what doesn't go with American gourmet comfort food really is like Bordeaux, Napa Valley Cab, and stuff like that, unless you're having the ribeye.
Yeah.
Unless you're having like this kind of food.
The meat potatoes thing.
And I get to work with stuff that I don't necessarily gravitate towards. But I mean, for instance, I had some Sauvignon from Arbois, from the Jura region. That's not my kind of wine. I don't like that kind of wine. If people say, "What kind of wine you like?" I say, "I like this one." They say, "What kind of wine you don't like?" I say, "I don't like that." But my best friend Fabrice loves that kind of wine.
Oh,
so now I'm not shopping for myself. I'm shopping for other people. So like if you look at it like you only wear Nike, say, and I don't like Nike. I like Asics and I like Adidas or whatever. And I say, well, should I find a good pair of Nikes? Ariana, I found a good pair of Nikes. And so I'm able to gravitate towards other people. So it's not even like, it's not
it's way more breadth. Yeah.
It's a variety of stuff. And
that's
it's
awesome.
Super fun for me. I just like to watch people be happy. I don't care what you like.
Yeah.
I'm not racist. I don't gender specific. I don't care about food. I don't care about anything. What makes you happy, what makes you live your best life, that's all I want you to do.
And that's your philosophy with wine consulting, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely. For every kind of
but that's
consulting.
different from restaurants,
Totally.
Restaurants, typically the sommelier or the wine buyer is going to make a wine list, what they think should be at the restaurant. So in some cases, the wines may not go with the foods. In some cases, the wines may go with the foods, but it's not recognizable. or it's not commonplace. It's not top of mind, So, even with that wine program, I think everybody just needs to remember is that, wines is subjective. What is the customer looking for? So the first question I ask them is, what wine do you normally drink? It's not what I think. It's not what what I'm, I'm not going to serve them something I. It's what is they want. And so they name a wine. So it tells me whether they like white, red, rosé, sparkling. Tells me whether like full body, light body, dry, sweet. What price range do we want to work? Californian, oaky. I mean, that one answer gives me a lot of info to work from. So from
price
there,
range too. Yeah.
So from there becomes you recommend things, perhaps one that goes with the food and one that's closer to what they like, because you may not carry it, but something that's close to what they like in style.
You're the champion of that. I remember the first time that you said that, like in a tasting that I was at, maybe it was at the restaurant or whatever it was. I remember you saying that. I thought, wow, that's like a different concept. Because if you think about if you go to a steakhouse like Ruth Chris or Morton's or whatever, and you ask the server, I'm looking for a wine to go with my ribeye. You know what they recommend? The most expensive freaking wine on the list to go with your ribeye.
They're like,
they don't care about that kind of stuff. And I remember, I'm not going to mention any names, but you had an employee who was a very good friend of mine who used to tell me, wow, Chuck is taking money out of my pocket. I sold him the blah, blah, blah for $300, and he came in and sold the na for $100. I lost $40 on that. And I said, yeah, but didn't the guest have a good time? And I didn't even mention, did the guest buy 2 bottles of wine? Could they come back again another time this
and
week
feel like
rather
they trusted
than
you?
only next month?
Yeah.
Are they here every other week now because you found a Chuck Furuya to give you this sort of insight to that? Because I think a lot of, especially in the service industry, most of the people in the service industry use the service industry as a stepping stone to get to wherever they're going. I want to become a dentist. So I'm going to take a night job as a server somewhere. They're going to make as much money as they can there, and they don't really care about this is a special place, man. The food industry is a very, very special place. It's what has brought us together for thousands of years. And if you're going to take money out of people's pockets, the least you can do is reward them with something that, as you would say, over delivers for the dollar amount. That's extra value oriented. And that's what it's all about.
Well, I think what it's about for me, just to spin it on a different perspective, is just that I try to treat people like how I would like to be treated. That's the bottom line.
Like your grandma's
So if I go
coming
to
the
a
door.
dentist and they say they got to replace all these things when it doesn't have to be, or you go to a
car mechanic
and they replace all these things and they overcharge you. I mean, how are you going to feel when you find out? It's no different.
I know what I'm going to feel like. Can't say that. I'm not going to be happy.
So you guys have Instagram now, and then you guys are going to fully open 2021, right?
We're I guess you could say we're fully open now. So as we all know, the pandemic has brought us many unforeseen circumstances, and the biggest one that happened was we started off as looking to be a bar.
Okay.
And the retail shop was second, and the
Cigars.
retail shop became the focus, and then the cigar thing happened, and then the little lounge that we're gonna have it's kind of blown up in a different way. But the bottom line is, like, even our website, while it's super professional, is a little bit vague.
Okay.
On purpose.
Yeah.
We're not trying to draw everybody who this wants to get on the website. You should come down and talk to us because we want to know what you're
Face
about.
to face, yeah.
Do you have a cellar at home? Do you eat at home? Do you cook at home? What kind of wine do you like? Are you collecting? Are you drinking today? Do you have children? Do your children like honey? There's so many questions that go into it. So it's basically kind of about, Bricks and Stones is about building your best life. Are you going to live your best life? And I'm not talking about monetarily. How are you going to build your best life? And that's all we're trying to do. Are you on the go? Are you not? There's so many questions that I really would like to sit down and talk with everybody who
And
comes
tailor it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
We only have room for 50 members. And right now we're about a third of that way. And we've been open for a little over a week, almost 2 weeks now. So obviously it'll happen. But the gig is like a private school. You can't have too many kids, because if you only have one teacher for 50 kids, it's really hard to teach them all.
Yeah.
But if you have one per every 10, it's way easier to understand. And that's what it's all about. We're trying to like cater to the masses in a very different way.
I love that though.
So Rick, your website is what?
Brix and Stones, Brix, spelled out ANDSTONES.com.
Right. And you are open how many days a week?
We're open 24/7. You just have to call me.
24/7. I
It's
love
by
that.
appointment only. You can't just stop by and shop because we don't have inventory. We cater to what you're looking for.
And then you go out and find it.
If we don't have it, we find it. Literally, we will find it.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
once again, collab with Elaine, your wife, correct?
Lilley, my wife, the most important thing
You married
in the
her?
world. She married me. I asked her. She said yes.
You proposed at Nyers Winery, right?
I proposed at Nyers Winery at the waterfall.
Yeah.
It's absolutely outstanding. Yeah.
So do you know what you two have in common on that front?
Oh,
Is this a bad joke?
he's
No.
saying the girl asked or
No.
said, right?
No.
What is it?
I performed both of your ceremonies.
Oh.
Aw, not just joking.
You know, it's funny. I don't know about yours, but he stole all of the vows. He
He
stole them
stole
all.
the vows.
I had to stop him from stealing my vows.
You're
By
just-
the way, you owe me, some money because I told you I wouldn't sign it. You know
I thought we were even after this.
Oh, okay. I have a deal with her husband too, her supposed husband, but I don't want to talk about it.
I'll see it in the
Hey,
financial
I'll tell you
report
what,
of
man.
2020.
Here's to
Cheers.
the procuration of fantastic men and women coming together for a lifelong dream.
Chuck Furuya, officiant services now on Chuck Furuya Uncorked.
So Brix and Stones, BRIX and AND Stones.com. Rick, Lilley, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And sharing
Thank you so
your
much.
insight,
Thank you.
your wisdoms, your experiences, all that stuff. It's been a really wonderful to hear your journey and all of your insights and everything. It's been a great night. So much
Thank you.
mahalo, bro.
I appreciate it, brother. Aloha.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
And such a great share. Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
Whoa. So to all of you, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Next week, we'll have somebody else on, actually in 2 weeks. And stay tuned, man. Check us out. We have all kinds of different little things, wines of the weeks, wine tips for home use, etc. So Chuck Furuya Uncorked. Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.